How is data transforming how today's organizations operate? What are the most critical components of effective data governance? And what emerging technologies or trends should public sector leaders anticipate in a data-driven landscape? I'll explore these questions and so much more with my very special guest, Cristina Alaimo, co-author with Yanis Kalalinkos of Data Rules, Reinventing the Market Economy. So the title of your book is Data Rules, and it suggests that, as you pointed out earlier, Cristina, a central role for data in modern organization, as you pointed out, in our life as we communicate and what have you. Would you elaborate on what you both mean by this title, Data Rules, and how do you see data shaping the future of governance and business?
So we play a little bit with the ambiguity of, data rules and data rules. So we play a little bit with words, But the idea is to convey this message that, of course, nowadays to the life of institutions. And we really take a long view in the book, showing that it has always been like that in a certain way. And that's very important because we don't have to fall into a trap that, okay, digital data, oh my God, everything new, there is a revolution going on. Yes, there is. But data pre-existed digital technologies. And we can learn a lot from looking at how data rules influenced, the making of institution and society. Of course, today, things are changing. And as technology is become central in the life of institutions, of organization and individual, then the way in which we work change, the way in which we communicate change. And as we do so, this prompts additional change and overall the organization of what it means today to work and live with data.
In your book, you discuss the implications of data on the decision-making process. And I was fascinated by that section. How do you see data influencing strategic decisions in, say, public sector organizations?
Yeah. So we point out, and we are able to do so because we draw this comparison between what was there before in terms of data and how organization used data to what is it now, data, and how today organization use data. So I think that that's very relevant because with this comparison, we are able to point out to some unique characteristic of digital data that weren't there before, such as, for instance, this heterogeneity of sources from which data in organization are used. Before, organization were using for strategic decision-making only data that were internally produced, for instance, right? Think about an hospital and think about what kind of data an hospital was able to use. There were certain different data, belonging to different specialization, produced by medical doctors, produced by administration, but that was it. But today, hospital can be linked to other hospitals, can be linked to research centers, can be linked to pharma, can be linked to GP or general practitioners, can be linked to university. And all of a sudden, even in the space of classical or doctor knowledge, you have an amazing amount of heterogeneous data that can be updated more or less in real time or much quicker than before. So the whole idea of strategy, Michael, has changed. The whole idea of strategic decision making has changed because it's now tied up to the different characteristic of data, their provenience, their nature, the way they flow across organizations, the way they flow across entities which are not only thinking individuals. And this means a lot of big changes for public organizations, such as hospital, government, cities, and so on.
But, I was wondering, as you were putting the book together and doing your research, I was hoping you could tell us more about the main challenges organizations across industries face when implementing sort of data-driven strategies, and how can they overcome some of these challenges that you folks found?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because there are so many, but they are also different across the board. And we've seen also, I think, different organizations reacting differently, but also as society has changed, now organizations confront different challenges because, of course, the environment has changed. So I guess that one of the main challenge we've seen is for organization to go along and change together their data strategy. That's very interesting. We have studied mostly, sort of organization where data were central. Now it has becoming, widespread in the sense that even hard industries such as car manufacturing or whatever, they have data at the center and they are creating innovation out of the management of data. But when we started studying data, we were studying mostly digital platform. And for them, it was even more evident, growing along their data strategy. So for instance, they were standardizing certain kind of behaviors, stakeholder, and with that, they were innovating because they were producing new data. And with this new data, they were obtaining new insight. And with this new insight, they were able to, strategizing even more on this insight and expand on new services that were data-driven. And on this data-driven service, they were able to gather the interest of yet other stakeholders. And with this data, others take off even a little bit further. Now, of course, as you can see, each one of these steps was full of opportunities, but also full of challenges. That they were technical, they were, organizational, because it means to redraw somehow the processes and practices you are used to or you thought, that were let's say, the most common in these phases. So, but as we looked, let's say, from above to these big, challenging processes, we've seen that the organization that were successful were those that were able to change along the data rules, of data rules. So not just market rules, like driving product to market, not just design rules that just, building software or building, classic product, but observing and reinventing themselves by looking at how data behave or how data sort of change the way organization work.
I was wondering, Cristina, how do you see the role of data evolving in the next 5 or 10 years, especially in the context of operations, whether it be government operations or private sector institutions? What do you see the evolution being?
Yeah, so there will be a trend which has started already, and it's the digitization of processes and practices across the public sector and private sector. And this is, of course, a trend that continues, and as it grows, so expands across different, tasks, operations, domains. It will bring even more data, and it will bring a change in the way work is made. So, I don't know, think about the public administration, think about health sector, think about, wherever. So this is a trend that we know a little because we have studied it and because it has started quite a bit of time ago. And we can expect things from this trend. So we know that once it happens, data and this more data change the tasks, processes of organizing, and also the roles and identities of workers. And somehow this is our job. So we are sort of, kind of sociologists, organization scholars that study exactly this and how data, because of this, is growing central and even more central throughout organization and change organizational structures and stuff like that, what I just mentioned. But I would like to add the second thing, because this is also something that we don't know. And it is now occurring with the AI, with the artificial intelligence wave. So there are other things and other trigger points and other sort of trends that are pushing data at the center of our society and different ways of working with data. And on this, we are less aware, or we can predict a little bit less what is going to be in the next 5 years, because we didn't know 2 years ago, all this large language model, ChatGPT, and whatever else stuff. And we didn't know, of course, and we couldn't anticipate all the big changes that it is bringing across the board. So that's very important to bear in mind, because, of course, this means that it's very likely that there will be other waves and perhaps even shorter waves of change that will be still data driven and still will put data at the center of social and economic innovation. But we need to address that. And I don't think that we are doing it right now. So this whole revolution of large language model or whatever is kind of going unchecked, don't you think, Michael?
Well, that's an interesting point. Yes.
Are we asking questions? Are we asking the right questions around data governance, about the implication of data governance in the AI supply chain and so on and so forth? I don't see that much going on.
Tremendous amount. And my next question was around, what you see, what other emerging technologies and trends you see in this area, and what should we anticipate? But I was hoping, maybe since you brought it up, getting your perspective on the pivotal moments, if you will, in the history of data and AI and how they intersect. And now, you're not a technologist. I don't believe you're coming from this if I'm correct, you're coming from this from a social scientist perspective. But I'm just wondering if there's anything you would like to elaborate on in terms of those pivotal moments and how they intersect.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we look, and you're right, we look at the sort of the long history of data from a social science, almost institutional perspective. So the pivotal moments that we see are those in which data intersect with institution, organization, and society. But certainly mechanization of data record first. So I'm thinking about, for instance, holder it punched card, and for our listener, Google it. You will be surprised. It's fascinating history. And like mainframe computers, so digitalization second, because then as mechanical records, then as this technology progresses, it becomes little by little digital. There are a few bumps on this road. So digital, and how this digital record processing enters in organization, I would say certainly is the second recent, because I've started in the book, we start from like 8,000 years ago. And then the third is certainly the personal computer. So has, data revolutionized organization first, but then as PC, personal computer, become the household machine, and they start, producing data which are completely different from what organization were handling. I think this is another pivotal moment. Data starts having mostly the function of communicating rather than recording and, sort of the accounting and administrative purposes that they had within organization. The third one is certainly the internet. Once again, here you are, huge connection and a sort of connectionism brought about by data that now become the medium for almost everything. And this is what we are still seeing. So this has not finished, because this has been gradual in a certain way. And now, of course, with mobile technologies and with the advance of emerging technologies, every little object is wired into this huge network, and of course acquires capabilities that were not there before. Within this, I think we can insert these dots of advancement in software and computation, such as, for instance, AI, and this wave of AI we are witnessing in this moment. But to be honest, this is possible because of the data that this big trend that I was highlighting before from, mechanization, digitalization, PC and internet has brought forward. Without those masses of data, something like the current AI revolution would not be possible.
Cristina, if there's one key takeaway you hope readers gain from your book, Data Rules, what would it be?
I think that data do make institutions. They do make society, and vice versa, and society make data, and institution make data. Data are not like technical things that are for data scientists or, computer scientists or government official or regulator. They are part of our life at the individual level and at the higher level, at the level of institution, at the level of organization. So get interested, document yourself, read book, and discover how can we work with data, through data, learning from data for, making the point of a better society. Why not? We deserve that.
This has been the Business of Government Hour, a conversation with Cristina Alaimo, co-author with Yanis Kalalinkos of Data Rules, Reinventing the Market Economy. Be sure to join us next time for another informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving government leadership and its effectiveness. Until then, subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at Apple Podcast, Spotify, Audible, or on your favorite podcast app. And as always, at businessofgovernment.org.